Hi.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of M's the Word.
COVID lockdown part 2 special.
I didn't think that this was going to happen. I know that's probably very naive of me, but I just did not imagine that they were going to do a second lockdown.
When you consider 99.9% of people recover from it, I didn't consider it either.
Here we are though.
Yeah.
I feel like this one, we're day 2 in as we record this, but I feel like this one, it isn't as strict, and because in
Lockdown
England,
light, they call it.
We've been quite lucky with the weather. The sun has come out. It's very cold, like crisp, sunny, autumnal couple of days we've had. So there's a lot of people out walking. Everyone's kind of enjoying the weather. And I feel like that's kind of lifted everyone's mood a little bit the last couple of days. I'm not sure what it's going to be like once we get that really like horrible cold
sideways rain.
Yeah, sideways rain.
Yeah. That's going to add a whole new dimension to it. But like you said, at the moment we went out this morning for a dog walk, and people were just like sort of saying hi, and everyone's in good spirits, and it doesn't feel as dystopian or as repressive as the first time it happened. It just feels like we know what to do now, I suppose. We're a little bit prepared for it. We know what's coming.
Although, I won't lie, on Wednesday evening, so it was the last evening of freedom before a lockdown actually happened on Thursday, we went out to have an Indian with a couple of our friends. And we had such a nice evening, obviously curfew at 10, but when 10 o'clock hit, I did get this really like heavy feeling of like, oh, that's it now for a month.
Yeah.
No more.
It was the final supper.
Yeah, no more eating out, no more like hanging out with people. It was just a bit like, I know you can, but it's freaking freezing.
Yeah, just wrap up nice and warm, grab a coffee and go for a walk with a friend. I don't know, there seems to be a different vibe this time.
I think everyone has been very friendly the last couple of days when we've been out on our walks. Stef and I have been doing these big like 7k walks over the last couple of days, and people want to talk to each other, don't they? Strangers want to kind of have that communication and say hello, and it's just, that's quite a nice thing to take from it.
And obviously I've been doing my workouts in the park now, and even some people walking past, they're like, "Oh, good on you," and stuff like that.
That's
and
nice.
Sort of acknowledging you. I don't know, it just feels like there's a different feeling in the air. I don't know. I'm going in very positive. I before this happened, I decided, and Hannah both decided, we had this kind of little thing between us. We said, look, we should just not drink for the duration of however long the lockdown is. Just not drink for that amount of time, because I'm a firm believer in drinking is the sort of thing you should do when you are celebrating, or when you're in good spirits, and it's not the sort of thing you should do almost when you're stressed or upset, and you use it as an
kind
escape.
of numb the feelings that you need to just sit with and feel.
Exactly that.
I definitely feel like in the last lockdown, I did drink too much, and I feel like a lot of the people listening probably feel a similar thing. I know a lot of my friends were the same, just sometimes out of boredom, just out of like sheer boredom. And the weather was nice, and the kids weren't home 24/7.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
The kids not being at home this time is a blessing. We're not stressed out, or there's no eye twitching going on because the kids are at school and nursery.
Yeah, I feel like they're both at that age though where they just need the stimulation, and mummy can't give them the stimulation anymore.
I think they need a break from us just as much as we need a break from them, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
You know, because they are like little chimps, aren't they? They just sort of like jump all over the furniture. And part of me is always like, I want to be like, don't jump on the furniture. But then part of me is like, don't be the sort of dad that tells your kid not to jump on the furniture.
I always remember going around to my friend Charlotte's house when I was in year 7 at school. So I was about 11 or 12. And her mum gave us a bag of crisps each after school. But we had to sit at the kitchen table and eat a bag of crisps because we weren't allowed to go into the lounge with a bag of crisps.
Oh, that's quite sad.
And I was just like, I was so shocked by it because that's not how we behaved in our house. Like, we were allowed to take snacks into the lounge and sit on the sofa and watch TV and chat and stuff. It wasn't so regimented, and
Yeah.
I felt I was actually like scared to like make a mess in her house.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was such a different situation. Like my parents were so much more relaxed
Same here.
about that.
I'm aware that we've segued into parent chat. And when we
That's
did,
right.
yeah, I know, but when we did sit down to decide what to do on this podcast, we decided let's not define ourselves as parents. But I suppose it's a big part of our lives, but one of those major parts of our lives, being a parent. But I want to just come out and say something just to move off the parent subject. I'm missing making vlogs. There's a
Are
part,
you?
yeah, there's a part of me which is aching to make them again. I was conflicted when we stopped doing them. Do I just kind of fizzle them out, or do I do a big sensational kind of goodbye and this crazy big video? But I was like, I don't know. It just felt like the fizzling.
I
was the
don't
right
think
way to
you
go.
need to completely like just leave it.
But then if I did go off on a
open.
big bang, I don't want to be like, bye, we're leaving, and then be
By the
like,
way,
oh,
back.
hi guys, we're deciding to come back. So that kind of pushes you into a corner if you do it that way. So, but I feel like I've got that burning like ache to do it again, and we've had so much time off making those type of videos that I feel like I want to do it again. So.
I think the good thing that I found about not filming so much over the last few weeks has been being able to focus on photography and other aspects of what we do. Like for me, it's like creating outfits or writing a blog post or whatever. I've had more time freed up because I'm not filming.
Yeah.
So that's been a good thing to come out of it. Anyway, how's your week been, Steph?
How has my week
It's
been?
Friday. Woo! You got online Zoomy poker tonight, don't you?
I've got online Zoomy Poker. That's one of the best things that came out of last lockdown. Is a group of us when we were like younger, about 300 years ago, used to all get together and go to my friend's house and we'd all play poker around the table, and it was great and we loved it. But no, it's good. We all sit there and we have a Zoom opened up and we all sort of sit there and chat and play poker, and there's no kind of pressure to. If you were to sit there with a pint with somebody, there's a pressure to fill every silence or to say just to constantly talk. Whereas if you're playing poker, you've got
Something else to
something
focus
else
on,
there
yeah.
where you can be quiet for a bit and not talk, and that's quite nice actually.
It's not so intense.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the week's been good. I had a blood test today to check my testosterone levels. I thought I'd get them checked out because I'm a bit of just like to do this sort of thing every now and again, get an MOT. So I thought I'd get that
I really
checked out.
don't think that you're going to be lacking in testosterone.
I just listened to Joe Rogan and he's talking about how like he's on like he takes like hormone replacement therapy or something. He does testosterone. He get boosters, and I was like, well, maybe I need those boosters.
He's a lot older than you, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but I'm just going to have a look anyway.
It's part of your midlife crisis, isn't it?
You get to a certain age, you just want to make sure everything's in check and everything's in order.
No, I think given the current climate, it's good to have the once over and make sure everything's running smoothly and ticking along nicely.
So I'll finish talking about how I am, and then we'll move over. I'll ask you the same question, but I just want to say before I do that,
Thanks for laying that out.
I didn't really think I was being greedy and just hogging all the limelight. So no,
I'm used to that.
Shut up, you. I did get a message from somebody. I put out last week, actually, as you listen to this, our last podcast that we put out. I had an interview with a urology surgeon who's a bit of a skeptic in terms of how we dealt with the COVID measures, and I put that out thinking this is going to probably unleash a lot of hell. With people telling me telling me I'm a fascist or something. I don't know, people just getting angry at me. And I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't that many. It was only a handful of people told me I was a scumbag. I didn't really say anything controversial. It was more of the fact is I just don't think that we're necessarily handling this the right way. And I think there's probably better ways that we could be doing it. But I am also acutely aware that I'm a 40-year-old man that uses emojis. I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not a statistician. I'm not a politician. I'm not, I'm a bit of a fool. So I don't really know. So I have no idea if I'm right or not. I just sort of go on in my instinct, and I don't even know if that instinct's right or not. It's just yeah. This is the problem. Some people say, oh, you shouldn't be, if you've got a voice, you shouldn't be saying these things. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I can't help the way I am. It's just how I talk and what I think. I'm not going to lie. And
I think that's sometimes the difficult thing about having a small online presence is that people expect you to always be correct and always be researched and stuff, and it's like just a normal human. You're not always going to say and do the right things.
As long as I caveat by saying don't listen to anything I say, isn't probably going to be wrong. But I did get one message from somebody who said, I've been following you for years now, and I've watched all your videos and all your Instagrams and everything and been a huge fan, but I'm really disappointed, and I feel like that's such a waste of time that I followed you for this amount of time because you almost basically, she got so upset that I was doubting the fact that or just didn't think that we should close gyms. And she felt so strongly about that she kind of thought that everything else now that you've done is irrelevant to me, and I'm never going to kind of follow you ever again. I'm just going to, you're dead to me now. And I feel like that stuck with me a bit, because I was a bit upset, because I was like, well, it goes to that. There's a word for that thing. We've talked about it before, the purity standard, where you could get on with somebody 99% of the time, and 1% of the time they say something that you don't agree with, and you find that so egregious that you choose just to completely alienate them. And I never knew where that came from. I was like, where's purity standards come from? Like, what's the cause of that? And then I listened to a Joe Rogan podcast where he talked to the guy who wrote that Social Dilemma film that's on Netflix. You haven't seen it yet, have you?
No, I'm purposely avoiding that, because I feel like it's going to make me not want to do my job.
I think I got about 20 minutes through into it, and I had to stop watching it because it felt a bit manipulative in terms of how the sinister music happening between. It was a bit partisan. I don't know. I just couldn't really get on board with it. So I after about 20 minutes, I stopped watching it. The guy who wrote it is called Tristan something. I can't remember his second name. But anyway, he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and actually him talking about it was for me fascinating, just when he was just open dialogue about the whole process of social media and how it works. And the purity standard thing comes very much from social media and how social media polarizes people, because I always thought people created their own echo chambers in life. Like, you create these echo chambers that you exist in, and with all these opinions that reinforce your own opinions, but you don't. It's created for you by the social media sites. They actually create your echo chamber and put you inside it, and you find yourself then polarized, and you find yourself then you have that purity standard comes out of it, because you're very much then like, well, if anything isn't aligned with how I feel, which is being reinforced so much, then you are now my enemy. And I find that really sad. It's one of the hardest things. Like, I get that social media causes depression, it causes anxiety issues, it causes loneliness. It's the polarization. That's the part of it that I find the most egregious, the most difficult part for me to be able to cope with. I think that's the part of me that I don't have empathy for what people, when they, somebody's sad or lonely or depressed from social media consumption, I feel kind of an element of empathy for them. But when I don't feel that when they are polarized from it, that almost angers me, because I think, don't let yourself become polarized. It's one of the frustrations. Anyway, sorry. Yes, roundabout way. I got that message. It annoyed me a bit, but then I went on a bit of a rabbit hole in my own mind and listened to a few podcasts, and it kind of all made sense of why that person thought that, and therefore I don't think they're to blame for thinking that. I think it's a bigger thing. Social media is to blame for that. Anyway, how are you?
Oh, bloody hell. I feel like I need a drink after that speech. I am having a week where I'm trying to just kind of really make a little bubble and keep it all really simple, and just enjoy things like walking the dogs and, I don't know, really simple home things, basically trying to prepare myself for having to enjoy simple home things for the next 4 weeks.
Is that why we have a candle now when we're eating dinner?
Yeah, well, no, we have a candle when we're eating dinner, because I'm reading this book about the study of happiness, written by this Danish scientist. And one of the studies that he does in the book talks about how happy candle light and fire makes people, and that there's been studies where people who eat by candlelight or by the fireside, they tend to stay on average 15 to 20 minutes longer at the table chatting to each other, and it becomes less about quickly eating your dinner and then walking off and carrying on with whatever it is you're doing. It becomes more about like the togetherness of the meal and communicating and talking about how your day was and how you feel and stuff. And I really loved that, and I just thought it was such an easy thing to do, isn't it, to plonk a candle in the middle of the table, and we never do it, and it does change the whole atmosphere. It really does. And I think it's funny that it's almost associated with romance, isn't it, if you have a candle on your dinner table? Well, at least I guess in England anyway. But just to have it there, it feels like a little cozy luxury,
Yeah.
It's just
I
nice.
like your way of framing lockdown part 2, of just almost simplifying things, making this cozy little bubble.
Yeah.
and just not overcomplicating it and just kind of floating along in that bubble.
Yeah.
That's
I'm feeling very much like last time I drank too much, definitely, and I sort of put loads of pressure on myself to be entertaining the children all the time, getting out of the house once a day, cooking, and like I feel like I'm definitely now more in the headspace of like, okay, this is a really weird, fucked up year for everyone, and if I have a day where I feel really shit and down and I don't know why, and all I do is like cook frozen food for everybody and like put cartoons on and chill, then that's fine. And going into it like that without any of the pressure is so much better for my brain than going in thinking, oh, I'm going to be really productive, I'm going to start writing my novel, I'm going to do photography every day, I'm going to do this many workouts, blah, blah, blah. And then you're kind of just setting yourself up to feel like a failure, aren't you, if you don't do those things? So
I feel like we've been quite lucky as well with the day that pretty much the lockdown was announced, or the first day of lockdown was a beautiful winter, crisp day with just piercing blue skies. The air was so cold and fresh. That's same again today. It just feels so, I don't know, it's just something about the air this time of year. It just makes you feel so alive. It heightens all your senses almost. It's just so nice. Whereas last lockdown, when it first was announced, I know it was summer, but it was shitty weather. It was like, very gloomy and not very nice at all. So that does make a big difference, I think, to a lot of people.
I think it was just more of a shock the first time round as well. Right. Everyone was just navigating this completely new thing that we all had to do, and nobody knew what they were doing, and it just was a bit crazy with all the panic buying and stuff. Whereas this time, I think people are like, okay, we did it before. Yeah. We kind of know what we're going into now.
One of the byproducts of it, though, it has unleashed the Karens. It has unleashed the Karens. I think I wanted to do a section in this podcast going forward where we play audios of Karens losing it. I was thinking a couple of names. I've got Karen Height for Fahrenheit, or Karen Geddon, or just Karen Watch. And it's just
Karen Geddon.
Karen Geddon, yeah. But that's the thing. I mean, there are quite a lot of them that are unleashed who are just quite, I don't know, a little bit self-righteous and don't know. You know what I mean. You get quite a few of them when you're out and about, sort of.
I mostly get them when I'm on my bike, and it really annoys me because I'm like, I'm a very careful cyclist. I'm really mindful, and it really annoys me when someone like shouts at me like, "No cyclist" or something, and I'm like, "You're on a cycle path," but I don't say it in my head. I just like smile and cycle away because I'm like, you're wrong. And you're going to look on the floor and see that little bike symbol in a minute and be like, oh shit, I'm a dick. I was saying to Grayson the other day, because I went into the co-op near where we live with our eldest son, Grayson, who is 6.5. And he got told off by one of the people that worked in there who was stocking the shelves because he touched a teddy. And obviously I've told him it's COVID, you can't touch anything, blah, blah, blah. But he's 6. So he went over and like touched this Kinder Egg teddy, and it kind of flopped over in the box and like came out of the box. And the guy in the supermarket was so angry about it. And he came up to me and he was like, he's just taken that teddy out of the box, blah, blah, blah. And like poor Grayson was just stood there like, I didn't mean to do it. Like, and so I like obviously made him put it back and say sorry. And I was really apologetic, like, oh, I'm really sorry, it won't happen again kind of thing. And I kind of, it's that killing with kindness thing where I could have easily just been like, he's a kid. Don't be so harsh. And I was trying to kind of explain to Grayson on the way home, like some people are just like that, and the best thing that you can do is just be really polite and then get the hell out of there. I remember so viscerally the 2 most embarrassing moments of my life, and one of them was that reaction I have when people get angry at me, where I just laugh at them, and it just makes them so much more angry. And it's such a shitty thing to do, I know, but I just instead of getting angry back, I'm like, I'm just going to laugh at you and make you even more angry, because their anger is quite funny anyway. I do find that when people lose it, go, you bloody idiot, I just find it quite funny that they can't control their emotions enough, and they have to kind of, they haven't learned to bottle them down, and I find that quite funny. But anyway, I was vespering home one day many years ago in London, and a guy walked out in front of me, and he was like a few meters away from the zebra crossing. So I kind of... Zebra? Are you American now?
what do they call it over here?
Zebra
Zebra crossing.
The zebra crossing.
And I had to kind of put on my brakes, and I braked, and I was like, I got angry at myself. What the fuck? Like, I got a bit flustered, and sort of like gave him a flustered face. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Something. And then he just started laughing at me, and I was like, you don't do that. I'm the one that does the laughing thing. So I was like, right, and I started laughing back at him, and then he kept laughing at me, and I kept laughing at him, and we just kept laughing at each other, but not laughing in a way that we were really laughing, like we found it funny. Laughing in a way it was like it was really forced, like
like really condescending.
And we both started doing that, and it must have lasted for about a good 20 seconds before I just drove off and felt more. I'm sure he was just as embarrassed as I was. It just went so badly wrong, and I was like, oh, it makes me shudder even think about it. You got anything embarrassing that's happened to you, Hannah Mags?
And I mean, I don't have a funny, embarrassing story. I don't think. I remember the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to me.
What was that?
But it still touches a nerve.
What?
I think I was about 14 or something. Days before YouTube, like, tutorials were a thing. And I decided that I was going to try and wax off my moustache by myself at home using my mum's, like, home Veet kit. Never done it before, didn't know how to wax, didn't have a clue what I was doing. The wax strips were, like, massive, like the leg ones. I put them on my face. And so I gave myself a big old wax burn there. Right, obviously where my moustache was, and I've got really dark hair as well, so like I'm one of those girls, I've got to get rid of it. I can't have it because it's like a man's moustache.
It's like you're doing Movember all year round otherwise, isn't
yes
it?
So I personally choose to get rid of it, and I have done from a young age. But see, I did this self-waxing thing without anyone ever showing me how to do it. Gave myself this horrible red burn on my face. Had to go to school the next day. Went to an all-girls secondary school.
Did you not try and get out of going to school?
It was so embarrassing. I tried to cover it up, but also had never really had much experience with makeup before either, and I didn't have any of my own makeup, so I kind of snuck into my mum's room that morning, saw this like big like beige looking stick, and just like tried to cover up the red with this like I think it was like a concealer stick or something, so it was like really cakey and it was on this burn, so I had this like disgusting like thing
caked in, like,
it was horrible, and I spent the whole day like trying to get away with like putting my head down and my hair in front and then we were in the changing rooms in PE, and my friend Tara just said to me, have you tried to wax your face? And I was just like, everyone was in there, everyone heard. I was mortified. Absolutely mortified.
I've got another embarrassing story. I just remembered another one.
Go on then.
I think I've told you this one. With the time I was in New York with an ex, and she thought I was going to propose to her. I think she thought that anyway. I'm sure she would have thought that. It felt like all the signals.
I think that just makes the story a bit more extreme than it actually is.
Anyway, we were walking down. We went for some, I think it was like some Chinese food or something, and then we were walking down the street, and all of a sudden I kind of stopped, and I was all nervous, and I turned and I looked at her, and I think she was like, "Oh, well, you got something to say?" And I was like, "Yeah, I need to say something." And she's like, "What?" I was like, "I've just shit my pants." I pooed my pants. I think I had something dodgy Chinese, and it just went straight through me. And I didn't know what to do for the first while. I was like, how do I carry on with the day, sightseeing, looking around, having a good time, pretending it's not there, or do I just confess? I had to.
How
confess.
bad was it? Was it like runny or?
Yeah, it was like an explosion. I needed to get back to the hotel room and sort things out.
So do you think you could see it through your jeans?
I don't. I probably would have got that. Probably at the stage I was probably wearing like linen trousers, knowing me. So probably, yeah, it would have seeped through, and it would have been even worse.
Did you also have frosted tips?
I probably did about that time. Yeah, frosted tips. Those were the days. Those were the days.
Oh, that's like boy band era. I miss boy band era. I know the kids have what do you call it now? What are they called? One Direction.
No, they got that other thing, K-pop.
Oh, yeah. But it's not the same as a 90s boy band. Do you remember when they used to do routines? There'd be like, and girl bands used to do it too.
They'd all sit on fucking stools.
Everyone would have a routine. That was for a ballad.
Yeah, they'd get the stools out for the ballad.
I loved
big
it when
high
they
stools.
did routines.
Oh, God. They were well in suits and sit on a stool. God, I'm glad they don't do shit
You should
like
have been
that now.
there.
A couple of gay guys once in Northern Ireland, who are my friends, invited me down to a Justin Timberlake concert. And I thought I'd go with them because I thought, well, that should be... I was single at the time. I thought it would be packed full of women and I'd be the only straight man there. But I have never heard a sound as piercing and deafening as the sound I heard when Justin Timberlake walked out onto stage and went, "Does anybody here want to be my girlfriend?
Why don't you be my girlfriend?"
God, the sound, it was just the loudest noise I ever heard. And it was so painful, I had to put my hands on my ears and put my head between my legs because it was that painful. It was horrible.
I miss that era of celebrity. like that era where you didn't really know anything about them other than what was published in a magazine. Like you kind of put them on this pedestal, and it's like you buy the CD and you see all the pictures in the CD, you read the lyrics. I miss that. I feel like a lot of nostalgia for that period.
Yeah.
The Justin Timberlake and the Britney and
the Britney. Can we talk about Britney's Instagram? I only started recently following her.
Of course we can talk about Britney. I would love to talk about Britney.
Let's have a look at this. I'm going to open up one of her leaves, because she actually did a video the other day saying she's okay. So I was going to play the audio of that.
Me and my friend Janine always pre-COVID would have kitchen parties in her house where we'd just basically drink Prosecco and dance on the bar stools to Britney Spears, and it was like the best.
3.9 million views this has had. Hang on, let me see if I can get it here. Here we are.
A lot of people saying a lot of different things about me, but I just want to let you guys know that I am fine. I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life, and I'm sending all of you guys a lot of prayers, wishes, and a lot of love. Hi.
So yeah, that's just a video of her saying she's fine, because I think some of the videos and the pictures that she's put up, you would assume that she's definitely not fine. Okay, hang on.
The beginning of fall. I pulled out all of my jackets, and then the next day it was really hot. It was very confusing. Anyhow, this summer has been so much fun for me. I learned so much, I laughed so much, I swam so much, but the most important thing that I did learn was that life has so many spontaneous gifts at each moment. Sometimes we need to learn to slow down and learn how to embrace them all. Anyways, I hope your summer was as good as mine, and God bless you all.
You see, I like what she's saying, but she looks like she's saying it under duress. Like, she looks like almost like she's being told to say that, and if she doesn't say it, like, her puppy's going to be killed. You know what I mean?
She has a point.
I do hope she's okay, and if she is, swimming a lot and stuff, like she says, and sorting out a wardrobe, good on her.
I wonder if that's her actual speaking voice.
Yeah, that's the other thing, the voice sound.
It sounds like almost...
I can see why
acted,
people would think there is more to this than what there is. When you watch it, you think, oh, I hope she's okay.
Most of the time online, though, there is more to whatever it is you're seeing or watching.
Yeah.
It's not always just as black and white as it looks.
Yeah. Cry me a river. Remember that song? That was about Britney, wasn't it?
Of course I remember that song.
Cry me a river.
Oh, the damage is done, so I guess I will leave it. Okay, let's stop this now. It's when your lip curls when you sing. I'm like, no, we need to stop.
My eyes get really slanty when I sing, like my mum.
Oh, I really want you to do an animation of that.
Do you know what I mean, though? So yeah, keep them slanting until they basically go vertical. Yeah, that's what my mum does when she sings. I always found it really cringy. Then I saw myself sing once. I was like, oh my God, I do the same thing. Never singing again.
I always think I've got quite an all right singing voice until I hear it back anywhere. If I ever hear it back anywhere, then I'm like, God, I'm so shit. Yeah. But when like you're in the car or you're in the shower, the car is a great place to sing. I also sing when I'm cycling. Do you ever do that?
No, I don't. But the best place to sing normally is in a bathroom, because acoustics are really nice in a bath. You get lots of natural reverb in there.
I always sing when I'm cycling and I've got headphones in, and I just sing really loudly, and I sometimes forget that there's just normal people in the world just walking around having to listen to like a bite size of this crazy woman on her bike going past singing. It's funny when you get to an age, isn't it, where you want to like relive your youth through the music that you used to listen to. That's something that's really nice to do in lockdown, though, is to like, I find the thing for me in the last lockdown was that I've never really been a huge fan of cooking. Like I don't have that much patience with it, and I think having a family of 4 that you have to do 3 meals for every single day, I just found it quite taxing. Didn't love it. But one of the ways that I found to kind of enjoy it a little bit more would be to put on like a cheesy playlist, like the Ultimate Beach Boys or a podcast, or I don't know, just something to kind of make it more that you're focusing on like singing or learning something or whatever, rather than just like the mundane act of like shopping food.
Yeah. I was thinking the other day, Hannah, just as a little thought experiment for you to think about in your quiet moments, isn't it arrogant and a little bit egotistical that we assume that we are interesting enough to put 2 microphones in front of our mouths and talk for an hour or so, and we assume that that's going to be so interesting that it goes up on a podcast and people are going to want to listen to it? That's quite arrogant, isn't it?
It's cringy as fuck.
It's cringy and arrogant. You've got to yeah.
I mean, personally, I am not expecting anyone to listen to it.
Yeah, I just became acutely aware of that all of a sudden. I was like, what?
I do that thing though where I can't, there's a name for it, but before I try anything new or start anything, I kind of always would caveat it in my head with, it's going to fail, so don't be disappointed when it fails type thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's a really bad way to be in, that you kind of have to teach yourself to like unlearn those thoughts.
Yeah.
But that's what I do. I'm like, well, I'll try it, but no one will listen to it, so it doesn't matter if it fails because I think it's going to fail. So do you know what I mean? Rather than going into something new and being like, it's going to be so successful and I'll be able to quit my job, and I never have that thought process.
Have you got any recommendations for this week, Hannah Mags?
Have I got any recommendations? I'm reading a couple of good books at the moment. I haven't finished either of them, but I'm reading them both alongside each other. I really like both of them. One is a book called Group by an author called Christy Tate, and it's basically about this woman who suffers from bulimia. She has done for quite a long time, and she starts going to this therapy group with 6 other people, and she really doesn't want to go. Yeah, so she goes into this therapy group, these 6 other people, and they basically are kind of learning to be each other's lifelines and using each other for support. And the guy who kind of is the therapist in the group tells them that you can't have any secrets in this group. Like he basically asks questions that make them feel really uncomfortable, and they all have to be like truthful in front of each other. And so it's kind of about, at the moment, how each of the characters interacts with each other and how she feels having to kind of open up, and a lot about her past and her how she was kind of parented when she was younger, and you kind of start to see like snippets of how her behavior was kind of stems from her relationship with her mother, and it's so interesting. I'd say for me it's quite a hard, not hard read, it's an easy read, but bits of it are quite like uncomfortable, to not challenging, but you know when something makes you just feel a bit like, oh, that's so sad, or it's just a bit I don't know, just a difficult few bits of it where it just makes you feel sad for the character. So that's one book that I would recommend that I'm really enjoying at the moment. And then I have another one called The End of the World Running Club, which is a little bit cheesy, but I am really enjoying it. It's about this man who, he wakes up one day, he's married with 2 kids, wakes up one day, puts his kid in a little sling, takes him down to the shop, and all of a sudden he realises that there's like no people around and there's no birds and the shop's not open. And basically overnight there have been like meteor attacks in England, and England basically goes into this post-apocalyptic state. And that's where I've got to, but he basically has to learn to navigate.
How did he sleep through that?
The apocalypse. I don't know, we haven't got to that bit yet. I think he was heavily drinking the night that it happened.
God, imagine waking up to that with him.
But yeah, that's really good so far, and it's quite apt. It's quite a nice read if you like to read things that are kind of similar to what we're going through but fictionalized heavily. But yeah, I'm really enjoying those 2 things.
Speaking of drinking heavily and sleeping after drinking heavily, I've been drinking since I was, like 13, I think. What happens is as you get older is that the hangovers just last longer. So the hangovers go from, when you're a kid, you just get up and you carry on with your day, maybe a couple of hours, you're fine. And it gets longer and longer and longer until when you get to about, late 30s. For me anyway, it was like they were extended to 2 days, and then they went up to 3-day hangovers. 3 days. And then, so what I would do is I'd be like, well, I love booze so much that what I'll do is I'll just deal with a 3-day hangover. And that's it. It's fine. It's the compromise, and I'll handle that and I'll deal with it. However, what my body did then was like, okay, this clearly isn't working, Steph. So what I'm going to do now is I'm not just going to give you 3-day hangovers, but I'm going to give you 3 a.m. crippling anxiety. So you just, and depression at like 3 a.m. So I'd wake up either super down or super anxious. That for me is just like a deal breaker. I'm like, I cannot deal with that. I can deal with your hangovers. I can't deal with that. And so the minute I quit alcohol is the minute that stops happening. I'll sleep soundly through the night when I don't drink. So that's one of the driving factors to why I'm taking these big breaks now from alcohol.
There's so many like chemical reasons why alcohol is bad for your sleep.
There really is. And you can go deep with it as well.
Yeah.
There's some good articles on Medium, the website, about that. And
I remember the first time we did Sober October, and we kind of looked into a few benefits that you would get from a month free booze, and that it was just like the list was like never ending, and then it almost got to the point where we hadn't even done it yet, and I think I was like, God, this is so bad. Why am I doing this to myself? Like, why am I treating my body like this? I'm basically torturing my body. But then obviously you kind of finish it and your friends are like, oh, do you want to go for dinner? And you're like, oh, I'll just have a glass of wine, and then you go back into it for a little bit, and it's just so good to take the breaks though.
Yeah, it really is.
And I feel like specifically over this lockdown period, I think it's good to have a challenge. It's good to kind of show that you can have a bit of restraint, and also because it's a depressant and the world is quite depressing right now, it's like don't go heavier into the depression.
Yeah, true. Yeah. My recommendation is something we watched last night on Netflix. I found it fascinating. It was
really good.
Yeah, it's called Human Nature. And it's all about breakthrough science, basically about CRISPR technology and the morality and the questions that come with engineering your DNA. And it's a tricky subject to talk about. A lot of people don't agree with it, don't think you should let us play God, as essentially, or as some people think, well, if you could ensure my kid doesn't have leukemia or any kind of other illness, then surely why would you not choose to have that?
Learning about the science behind all of that was
God.
And they did it really well in that they made it really visual. So you weren't just listening to them explain it. It was like it's
they did a good
kind
job
of
with the
put
visualization,
in front of you so that your brain can be like, oh, okay, that makes sense now.
I mean, I was even like struggling. I was huffing and puffing trying to keep up with a lot of what they were saying, because I was like, well, how does that work? How does that protein do that? And I don't understand.
You've got to keep watching it though, because a lot of the stuff that they say at the beginning kind of makes sense in the middle.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Imagine a doctor sitting opposite you saying, right, I've isolated the gene where that we can remove so they're not susceptible to this particular type of illness or disease or whatever. So we're going to remove that. But also, I've also found the one for the height. Do you guys want to? I just asking. Do you want to go tall, or it's up to you? Oh, yeah. Oh, and also I've got one here for eye color.
Yeah, that's when it gets like.
Oh, can you do that?
But one of the scientists was saying how different people prioritize different things. So like you'd have a parent who would be a scientist and want their children to be really clever, and they'd want that to somehow be genetically installed in them, and then other parents might want to go for more of like an aesthetically pleasing child, or
athletic or something.
Everybody kind of picks different things. It's not one kind of formula that would suit every person and in every kind of lifestyle. The other thing that the problem that they've got with it is that if they're taking out all of the big killers and all of the diseases, then you've got a massive population problem. And where do you put all those humans? If everyone's going to live longer because they don't get ill and die, like essentially people probably live till they're like 120 or something, right? If they didn't have any diseases and their genes were all perfect, it's like,
when they said
are we all going to go live on the moon or something?
When they said that, do you remember what they shot? What they shot? They said that where are we going to put all these people? And then there was an image on the screen. Did you see what they put?
No.
A Mars. They put Mars on the screen. They didn't say anything about that, but they
my
just sort of
sister
put
said something about that recently, that she'd read somewhere or heard something somewhere that they are talking about like trying to make other planets like
terraform
habitable for us.
Yeah, terraform planets by nuking them. I think that was one of the plans. But I don't know. I think, and they were also talking about how you could genetically engineer people through DNA to enable them to travel very long distances. So they might live for a few hundred years. So they could live a few hundred years to travel to a different planet. And put them on a space shuttle and carry. Can
you imagine living for a few hundred years though? I don't know if I'd want that. Maybe like give me like 150 years where I have like the body of a 25-year-old and like the brain would be like the mental age that I actually am. Yeah, that would be great. I'd go for that, but not for a few hundred years. I'd be like, oh God, what do I do today? I've done everything now.
Speaking of space travel though, does it not confuse you a little bit, or you go like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? The way they always brag about the fact that like they got to the moon on basically a computer that had the power of a calculator. That's what they always say. Oh, it had the same power as a calculator, got to the moon. It's like, okay, and that was 60 years ago. Why the fuck, with our computers now then, are we not on the moon every weekend? Why is there not... we should...
What's the reason to
because
go to
look how
just
fast
you want to
and
go to the
rapidly
moon?
technology
There's nothing
evolves.
there.
Oh my God, imagine bouncing around on the moon.
Yeah, you'd find it fun for like an hour and then you'd be like, right, where should we eat tonight?
Yeah, they put a Soho moon house up there. It'd be lovely. An outdoor pool. How would that work? An outdoor pool. Yeah, I don't know. There'd be nice hotels and stuff you could go and stay in, underground bunkers and stuff you could check out. It'd be lovely. You could see the earth and be like, look, we live down there. How humbling is that? Aren't we so insignificant in the grand scheme of things? No, I don't know. I think we should be up there at least, once a year, just to kind of have a little trip. And I can't believe the way technology has evolved so much over the past 60 years. I mean, we're in a different world now compared to where we were 60 years ago.
There will definitely be a reason why they don't do that.
Well, it makes me think
also,
maybe we didn't do it in the bloody first place.
We fucked our own planet up so much that they're probably like, let's just not let humans go on this one.
You know what we should do, though? I don't know why they don't do this. We can look into the depths of the universe with our telescopes. We've got ones that are huge. Why don't we just point it at the moon and look at the bit where they planted the flag? And we could see a flag on it and we'd know, well, okay, well, we did do it then, and all the speculation would disappear. Why haven't they done that? See, all these questions, you see.
Who is they, Steph? Who are you going to write your angry letter to?
I'm writing to the Times. I'm writing an angry letter to the Times.
Tell me the truth.
I know. There is whenever you say they, you'd always think about these kind of sinister, like old white men, don't you, in this office somewhere with, big, jowls and...
Covering up loads of stuff.
Yeah, sweaty palms. Covering up all the air, exactly. Yeah, they. But no, so I think we should pretty much wrap it up there, Hannah Mags, because we have been talking for a very long time.
I know. I feel like I need to go and stretch.
Yeah, we got to do a quarantine workout now, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We've got to do a quick quarantine workout.
Oh, I don't want to do it quickly.
Oh,
you take my time with this.
Do it later then.
Yeah, let's do it later. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for getting to the end of this week's podcast. We've loved having a chat to each other and to you. I hope you've had a lovely experience. I never know.
I hope everyone's all right and everyone's just doing what they can to kind of
keep... burped, sorry.
Fucking hell, Steve. I've got a quarantine with this, guys.
Yeah.
Help me. Anyway, I hope everyone's feeling all right and that we provided you with a little bit of escapism in your week. And we will see you all for another podcast
next week. Take care, everyone. Thanks for listening to us stupid fucking selves. Bye.
Bye. I cannot listen to that one more time. You have to change that fucking thing.
I know, it's horrible. I've got to change it.